Hi, I'm Christina, and today we are going to talk about some recent strange, mysterious illnesses that are spreading and some others that you might be quite surprised about. And we're going to talk about how this relates to end-time Bible prophecy. Okay, we are going to start off with the third seal in Revelation 6, okay? And it says, "And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, 'Come and see.' And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, 'A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine.'" Okay, so a lot of people, they naturally saw this as economic and famine crisis based. And it's not going to be real quiet around here necessarily, so you might have to bear with me a little bit. But it was also said that the third seal was talking about pestilence, and that we would have, and pestilence means not just like bugs for like crop loss, but diseases and illnesses. So basically what Revelation chapter 6 verse 5 and 6 are talking about is that all at the same time we're going to have a famine and pestilence, which can affect the crops, right? Okay, and when you have a problem with your crops, you have a problem with your economy. So yes, the crops, that it does affect the economy because you've got animals and we've got fuel that we make out of the crops and all kinds of things, So we really can get a really good picture, but it doesn't stop at the crops. It goes on to like disease-borne illnesses, okay, that we don't know how to fight. And like with these STDs that are out there now, it's like the same ones, but they've mutated so that they can't be treated with antibiotics anymore. They're super STDs now. They're not just sexually transmitted diseases. I believe that the third seal isn't just like one woe after the first 2 seals. I think that the first 2 horsemen, they started their ride and they didn't stop. They keep going as each rider starts riding. They just keep going. So that's why we were taught when I was younger, back in the 80s, that the famine would grow worse. It would like start in different areas of the world and then it would become a global famine. And that you would basically have to work an entire day for one bowl of food, one little bit of grits that might feed you, but you'd really be starving, because you'd be working everything off. You'd be basically working for food. Since we are on the third seal, when we talk about pestilence, that can also mean not just for the land, but for people as well, right? And recently we've been listening to reports about a polio-like illness that they call AFM. It's an unknown virus that's paralyzing children. In New Jersey, Paul Begley was reporting on 6 dead children and 12 ill ones at a rehabilitation center. And the report has been updated as of this morning that there are now 7 dead children and 11 ill. So one of the ill children passed away recently. And then you also wake up to the reports of the West Nile virus that happens to be spreading across every United States state except for Hawaii and I imagine Alaska. But the West Nile virus is now spreading. It started off like in Florida and then now it's everywhere. And that's really starting to, cause a lot of concern, obviously, especially for unborn children. So it might be helpful to have some citronella around and some marigold flowers, because I live right in the middle of the woods and I haven't really had a problem with mosquitoes, but the people around me have, right? Also, get rid of standing water. That's a really great thing, but it becomes a lot harder when we're constantly being doused with these storms and these floods, right? Which brings its own sets of disaster. But before we move on to what the storms are doing, the disease even goes into the ocean, because now I saw the mass animal fish deaths, right? There was like 3 of them this month in different parts of the world. Okay, October 14th, mass death of fish, a mystery in a river in Barbuelva, Norway. And then down a little ways, October 11th, die-off of rabbits due to a mystery illness in England. October 9th, hundreds of goats and cows dying from mystery disease in India. But you see the mass die-offs, something's going on in the water too, not just on the land, it's in the air, something's going on. Now, when you get back to the storms, we're hitting, no matter what kind of storm it is, we are hitting these unprecedented records. It's leading to the famine that's talked about in the third seal, because we are having problems with catastrophic crop loss. And there are definitely ways that you can find out about those. But it makes me bring up the fact that you've really got to start gardening now. During the summer, the UV coming in here and around the Houston, Texas area was so bad that it was burning my plants. It really was. But as soon as there was cloud cover, everything just kind of started blossoming. But the rain has been nonstop, so that kind of messes with the bugs. And it's like become really clear that a lot of the things that I started growing that are just now trying to bud, they're either going to die because of the frost that's coming, or I can bring them in and put them under my grow lamps, because they're just taking so much longer this year and there's just so much more going on. And it's so rainy. That's why I know that we're going to have like a major problem with ice down here in the south, probably all along the Gulf Coast, because it's so wet and it's going to get down to those freezing temperatures. So we're going to have branches falling onto power lines. We're going to have problems with ice on the roads. So, just ice hanging off of everything down here in the south. That's what I see happening this winter. It's going to be pretty bitter. So be sure to look out for your neighbor. It's just happening just as early for us. So I'm already bringing in things like my squash, my pineapple plant that's growing, and my bell pepper plant, but in a couple of days it's going to get back up to 80 during the day, but it's going to start hitting those high 40s at night real soon. It's in the 50s at night now. It gets cold, but we're warm in my house. That's pretty good. And then in the meantime, we have lots of rumors circulating about civil war in the United States and martial law, right? So it's not like we don't have peace that has been taken from us. And it's everywhere. It's not just America, but it's getting worse in America. That's why I say, that martial law, it'd be good for getting whatever. No, it is not okay. Because really, it's a terrible time. It really is. And anybody who doesn't know anything about it should do some research on that. But martial law, but civil war, they say it's coming, but in a way, it's already here. But it's going to escalate here, all right? The things between the United States and China, I told you before that, something was coming with China. Things are going to continue to get more hectic. But that is part of what we were told was going to happen, that peace would be taken, that, we'd be killing one another, and that families would be divided. And so don't feel bad if you've got problems in your family. Prophetically, you should be, okay? Because we're going to be divided. Jesus is bringing a sword for this time. Whoever talks about peace, I was taught there's not gonna be peace. Jesus is coming to bring a sword, right? There's no peace coming. But yet, there's a lot of talk in it. And in the meantime, we've got these midterm elections coming up. And part of some civil war already is right on our border. You know, there's some civilians from out of the country that are big enough to be considered an army, an infiltrating army. So it's sounding like they're going to be treated like that. There's too many people just crossing the border like there's no border at all. And in terms of security, that's not a good thing. If you have a home, you want to be able to know that that door is locked and nobody's coming in, right? But we have those problems, and it's getting more serious. And explosives were sent to Obama and Hillary, and recently we'd heard that something like that had happened with Soros, too. So that it looks like there's some kind of coup going on against certain high hated leftist officials. All right. And then there's the prophetic rumors about rapture that we're always hearing every other day. And I keep trying to tell people, please, please, please stop. We're not getting raptured right now. That's why I beg people to read their own Bibles, the prophecies that are in them. That way that you have an idea of what's going on. And if certain things don't transpire, then we're just not going to get to that point you think we're supposed to be at. We're really not there. I think what the problem is that a lot of people are just scared. We're in labor pains and they want to get out of here, and it's not going to happen. Not right now. Yes, it could happen anytime, but fig tree. Signs aren't there. They don't match exactly right yet, okay? But if you want to talk about signs, then we can go with what's going on in Israel with this ongoing peace deal. And it's always going back and forth. And what I'm seeing is that they are really doing a lot of negotiating in the headlines. I know that there are meetings going on behind closed doors, but there's a lot that they kind of say in the headlines to kind of bounce off of each other. And everybody's like, ooh, he said this. Ooh, no, I think they're kind of using that as a springboard to kind of iron out details that may needed to happen. But the headlines that I'm seeing are pretty interesting because it looks like people are starting to get a little antsy because France is saying to the United States, release your peace plan or we'll release ours. And so I think they're kind of putting pressure on the United States. I don't know if they really believe they can do a better job, but I think that they just want to go ahead and get it done. And another headline says that Trump is prepared to pressure Netanyahu with a peace plan. And then another one, there's a lot of rumors that are being passed around too, but there's one article that talks about how Israel's concerned the U.S. peace plan to name Jerusalem as the Palestinian capital, meaning that Jerusalem would be the capital for both the Palestinians and the Jews, the Israelis, which would go through with the prophecy that I had that somehow Jerusalem and Israel was going to be divided, and that's starting to really, really line up. I wanted to talk about the implications of the eventual inevitable signing of a Israel-Palestine peace treaty where they divide the land. That is biblical. But I wanted to point to the First World War that they called the war to end all wars, where they had to literally fight in the trenches. It was really the war to begin the world wars, now wasn't it? Pearl Harbor, we all know that was how we got into World War II. But I think that once we have something to do with this Israel peace treaty thing, that we're going to have Pearl Harbor type event on American soil. The difference is that we won't know how to defend ourselves. We won't have guns. We won't have training. The only thing that Americans really know how to do is try to stay calm and hope that nobody gets hurt and treat it like a carjacking, that you'll just be okay. But what I've seen in the visions and other people have seen is, no, you need to run. This is not a carjacking. Don't stay calm. You've got to do something. Don't just do what they say. It's going to be worse than trying to run or fight. Believe me. And that, I think, is what worries me the most about when you see that sign coming, is the peace deal. That's biblical. And an invasion coming on the United States land as a result of that afterwards, that's like a Gog Magog kind of thing. And that's what's really more likely on our list right now than rapture, because it's definitely not the tribulation. When you think about rapture, actually, I wouldn't really expect it until we had the apocalypse in the last days that we're supposed to have, when there are mysteries that are revealed, when everybody's on the same page and has had an equal opportunity to know certain things. That beyond that, maybe we'd be looking at a rapture, and along with what happens during the apocalypse, like the rebuilding of the third temple. A lot of people say that we don't need an actual temple because our temple's in our hearts, which is true, but the way the Bible describes it is an actual place, it is an actual building, and the animals will be in there desecrating it. So don't get things confused, in metaphors. I'm going to go ahead and leave you with that. And I also wanted to mention briefly that there is censoring of my channel that goes on a lot. I don't know if half of you get even notified about what's going on. So share and hit that like button. And I have had such a hectic schedule that it's a real relief to be back on again. So I just wanted to let everybody know. I will talk to you very soon. God bless.